Welcome to iScope Media. Today we are going to talk about an important topic, and that is the major announcements made in the Union Budget 2022. Well, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the Union Budget for 2022-23 on February 1st with a focus on fast-tracking the economy, providing opportunities to businesses and potentially creating 6 million new jobs. Agriculture, healthcare, small businesses and infrastructure also featured prominently in the proposals. This budget seeks to lay the foundation and give a blueprint to steer the economy over the Amrit Kal of the next 25 years from India at 75 to India at 100, Sitharaman said in her shortest budget speech, which lasted 1 hour and 30 minutes. Like she did last year, the minister delivered a paperless budget and read out her speech from a tablet. Major announcement of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman as part of her Budget 2022 speech includes spectrum auction, which will be held in 2022 for the rolling out of 5G mobile services within 2022-23 by the private firms. In a major move, the minister announced 30% tax on proceeds of digital assets. Congress leader P. Chidambaram said on Tuesday that the Union Budget 2022 was the most capitalistic speech ever by the finance minister. He added that he was shocked to see Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman outlining plan for the next 25 years. Government seems to believe that the present does not need any attention and the public can be asked to wait patiently until Amrit Kal dawns. This is mocking the people of India, he added during a press briefing. Well, India to move to 8% dollar boost if 8% GDP path stays. If India continues to retain path of 8% of real GDP, it will translate into 8 growth in dollars, says CEA Nageshwaran during the post-budget conference. Please understand the budget, says the finance minister tells Rahul Gandhi. On Rahul Gandhi's zero-sum budget, finance minister asked him to please understand the budget. She also asked that irresponsible comments are coming as criticism, especially by the leader of a party who hasn't done his homework right. Pandemic definitely impacted jobs, but centre helped citizens to recover, says finance minister. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said COVID-19 pandemic definitely impacted the jobs, but the central government has, through various schemes, been trying to help citizens recover successfully. Well, budget is continuation of last year's holistic agenda, says Finance Minister. This year's budget is continuation of the last year's holistic agenda, says Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Didn't want to increase the tax at the time of the pandemic, she added. The centre didn't want to increase the tax at the time of COVID-19 pandemic, says Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. She said the same direction was given by Prime Minister Narendra Modi last year as well, and it has been maintained this year too. The Finance Minister further stated that the government didn't want to earn a single paisa during the ongoing crisis. Well, now let's move on and check on here are the major announcements in the budget 2022. First, let's have a look at the fiscal deficit target. The country's total expenditure is estimated at rupees 39.45 lakh crore in the fiscal year 23, while the recipients other than the borrowings are estimated at rupees 22.84 lakh crore. The fiscal deficit for the financial year 23 is projected at 6.4% of the GDP. Now moving on, let's have a look at the updating returns. The taxpayers now have an opportunity to correct errors and file updated returns within 2 years of the relevant assessment years. Now let's move on and have a look at the tax deduction limit. The tax deduction limit for the state government employees on the employer's contribution to the national pension system will be increased to 14% from 10% to bring them at par with the central government employees. Now let's have a look at the digital assets. Any income from the transfer of any virtual digital asset will be taxed at 30%. Tax must be deducted at source on the payment made in the relation to transfer of the virtual digital asset at 1% of such consideration above a monetary threshold. Now let's have a look at the Ltcg. The surcharge on long-term capital gains arising from the transfer of any type of asset will be capped at 15%. Let's move and look at the digital rupee. The Reserve Bank of India will issue a digital currency based on the blockchain and other technologies starting in the fiscal year 23. Introduction of the central bank digital currency will give a big boost to digital economy, the finance minister has said. Now let's have a look at the SEZ Act. The Special Economic Zones Act will be replaced with new legislation that will allow states to become partners in developing enterprises and service hubs. This will cover all large existing and new industrial enclaves to optimally utilize infrastructure and enhance export competition. Financial assistance to states for capital investment. The outlay for the scheme for financial assistance to states for the capital investment is being increased to rupees 1 lakh crore in the fiscal year 23, up from which was rupees 15,000 crore in the revised estimate for the current year, to assist the states in the catalyzing overall investments in the economy. These 50-year interest-free loans are over and above the normal borrowings allowed to states, and the allocation will be used for Prime Minister Ghati Shakti related and other productive capital investments. Now let's have a look at the rail network. As part of Atmanirbhar Bharat, 2,000 km of network will be brought under Kavach, the indigenous world-class technology for safety and capacity augmentation in the fiscal year 23. Now let's have a look at the Vande Bharat trains. 400 new generation Vande Bharat trains are to be built over the next 3 years. Moving forward, let's have a look at the Ghati Shakti Master Plan. The Prime Minister Ghati Shakti National Master Plan is driven by 7 engines: roads, railways, airports, ports, mass transport, waterways and logistics infrastructure, which will pull forward the economy in unison. The Ghati Shakti Master Plan for the expressways is to be drawn up in the financial year 23, and 100 new cargo terminals will be built over the next 3 years. The national highway network will be expanded by 25,000 kilometers in the fiscal year 23. Now let's have a move and take a look at the EV battery swapping policy. Acknowledging the constraint of the space in the urban areas for setting up charging stations for the electric vehicles, the Finance Minister proposed to introduce a battery swapping policy and frame interoperability standards. The private sector would be encouraged to develop sustainable and innovative business models for the battery or energy as a service. Now let's have a look at another topic, which is 5G rollout. Spectrum auctions will be conducted in the 2022 to facilitate the rollout of 5G mobile services by private telecom companies. Now let's move on and have a look at the natural farming Kisan drones. Chemical-free natural farming will be promoted across the country with a focus on agricultural land along the river Ganga in the first stage. The procurement of wheat in Rabi 2021-2022 and the estimated procurement of the paddy in Kharif 2021-2022 will add rupees 2.37 lakh crore in direct payment of minimum support prices to farmers' accounts. Use of Kisan drones will be promoted for crop assessment, digitalization of land records and spraying of insecticides and nutrients. Now let's move on and have a look at the mental health program. With the pandemic accentuating mental health problems is people of all ages, a national mental health program will be started to improve access to the quality mental health counseling and care services. Moving on to the digital education, with children having lost almost 2 years of the formal education due to the pandemic, the One Class, One TV channel program of the Prime Minister E-Vidya will be expanded from 12 to 200 TV channels. This will enable all states to provide supplementary education in regional languages for classes 1 to 12. A digital university will be set up to provide world-class quality universal education with personalized learning experience. This will be available in different Indian languages and ICT formats. Now let's have a look at the paperless e-bill system. A completely paperless end-to-end online e-bill system will be started for use by all central ministers for their procurements as a further step to enhance transparency and to reduce delays in payments. Now let's have a look at the e-passports. E-passports using embedded chips and futuristic technology will start rolling out in financial year 23 to make overseas travel more convenient. Now let's have a look at the housing. The government will allocate rupees 48,000 crore for Prime Minister Awas Yojana and complete 8 million houses for the scheme identified and eligible beneficiaries in rural and urban areas in the fiscal year 23. Well, when we move on and look at defense, to reduce the imports and promote Atmanirbharta in equipment for the armed forces, 68% of the capital procurement budget will be earmarked for the domestic defense industry. Private industry will be encouraged to take up design and development of military platforms and equipment in collaboration with the Defense Research and Development Organization and other entities. Now when we move on and take a look at the animation and gaming. Animation, visual effects, gaming and comics offer immense potential to employ youth. An AVGC promotion task force will be set up to recommend ways to realize this and build domestic capacity to serve the domestic markets and global demand. Now let's have a look at the post office banking. All 150,000 post offices in the country will become part of the core banking system, enabling access to accounts through internet banking, mobile banking and ATMs, and also allowing the online transfers between the post offices and bank accounts. This will help the farmers and senior citizens in rural areas, enabling interoperability and financial inclusion. Now let's have a look at the hospitality. Hospitality and related services offered by the small and medium enterprises are yet to bounce back to pre-pandemic levels. The government has decided to increase the guarantee cover for them by rupees 50,000 crore under a scheme that will be extended to March 2023. Now let's have a look at the solar modules. To facilitate the domestic manufacturing of the 280 gigawatts of the installed solar energy capacity by 2030, the government will make an additional allocation of rupees 19,500 crore under the production linked incentive scheme for the production of high efficiency modules. Well, these were the major announcements made by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in the Union Budget 2022-23. Stay with us, we shall bring you one important topic every day. This is Aparna Singh reporting for iScope Media.